In the golden heart of rural America, a troubling silence is settling in. Not the peace and quiet kind, but the eerie stillness of idle tractors, canceled orders, and phones that no longer ring. From Iowa to Nebraska and Illinois, the engine of American farming is faltering. And at the center of it all is one jarring figure: 145%. That's the new tariff President Donald Trump imposed on Chinese imports during his second term. A move aimed at showing strength, but one that set off an economic chain reaction. Instead of forcing Beijing to yield, it backfired spectacularly. Within 48 hours, China fired back with its own 125% tariff on U.S. agricultural products. Overnight, staples like soybeans, pork, wheat, and corn were effectively locked out of one of the world's most vital markets. The result? In 2025, China, once America's biggest soybean customer, hasn't bought a single grain. Not one. The silence at U.S. ports has turned into screams, echoing across the farmlands. While the tariffs might not hit every farmer directly, the ripple effect is devastating. China is still buying soy, pork, and grain, but from someone else. And that shift is proving fatal for American farmers. Across the Midwest, the damage is real and immediate. In Des Moines, thousands of bushels of soybeans sit rotting in silos, with no buyers left to take them. The once booming trade pipeline to China has dried up, and for many, so has their livelihood. Farmers who used to strike million-dollar deals with Chinese firms are now pleading with brokers in Brazil just to get a foot in Asia's new supply chain. But this isn't a short-term hiccup. It's a full-scale rerouting of global trade. China has locked in decade-long contracts with Brazil and Argentina. These are ironclad deals, backed by billions in infrastructure investments, new ports, silos, and railways stretching across Latin America. The soy highway that once ran through Kansas, it's been rerouted permanently. The soy stream now flows south, through Brazil, through Argentina, not through the plains of Iowa. And up in Davenport, one farmer just sold his combine, not for an upgrade, but to cover his property taxes. In Indiana, another ripped up 50 acres of perfectly healthy soybeans, not because they failed, but because no one will buy them. The old comforting belief that things always bounce back has vanished. It's been replaced by fear, by uncertainty, by dread. And here's the painful truth. This isn't a natural disaster. It's not a flood, not a drought. It's a man-made crisis, one built by policy, not weather patterns. The Trump administration insists these tariffs will bring fair trade and manufacturing revival. But on the ground, they've triggered something else entirely: the fastest foreign buyer retreat in U.S. agricultural history. And China, once the biggest customer of them all, is leading the exit. As one Midwestern trade officer bluntly put it, "We didn't just lose a customer, we lost the customer." Meanwhile, 12 U.S. states have filed lawsuits challenging the legality of Trump's sweeping use of emergency trade powers. Farmers from Ohio to Missouri to North Dakota are joining the fight, arguing that these policies strip rural America of its future. But legal battles are slow, and in farming, delay can be fatal. Because in farming, every lost season isn't just a bad year, it's a scar that doesn't fade. Buyers find new partners, trade flows shift, and the most valuable currency in global agriculture, trust, once broken, rarely returns. The American farmer who once grew soy for Beijing is now competing with Brazil, where soybeans sail to China without a 145% tariff dragging behind them. Washington's answer? A $20 billion bailout package. But in small towns across rural America, the mood is far from grateful. One Nebraska farmer put it bluntly: "You think a check can fix this? You can't buy back trust." Because this crisis isn't just about lost profits. It's about the collapse of an entire support system. Grain elevators are shutting their doors. Equipment dealerships are laying off mechanics. Fertilizer prices are soaring, driven up by new import duties. Even seeds, the very beginning of the next season, now cost more. When the tariffs rose, so did everything else, except the futures of the farmers. And this crisis isn't just economic, it's deeply human. Suicide rates among farmers are rising. Mental health hotlines in rural counties report a wave of crisis calls. The silence in the fields is now echoed by a growing silence in the soul. Farming once stood for stability, dignity, and legacy. Now, for many, it feels like a game they were invited to just to be set up to lose. A game hijacked by politics. In the Midwest, the refrain is heartbreaking. This isn't about weather or global markets. This is about abandonment. And the fallout isn't limited to individual farmers. Entire communities are unraveling. Local banks are tightening credit. County fairs, once social lifelines, are being canceled. Equipment auctions resemble wakes more than business transactions. In towns where agriculture is the backbone, the spine is cracking. The administration touts new trade talks with India and the UK, but these deals, while headline-friendly, don't have the scale or infrastructure to replace China. Not even close. As one Illinois grain trader put it, it looks good on paper, but you don't move 200 million bushels of soybeans with a handshake in New Delhi.
Meanwhile, Brazil looms large. Backed by Chinese financing, Brazil now commands over 60% of China's soybean imports, and that figure is climbing. The new trade highway of soy, pork, and power runs through the southern hemisphere. And America, once the center of global agriculture, now struggles to get a seat at the table. Even Canada, long considered America's junior partner in agriculture, is now capitalizing on the chaos. Canadian exports of soy and canola to China have surged by 28% since January. Why? Because unlike the US, Canada didn't torch its trade relationships. It nurtured them. As America bleeds, Canada profits. And the bleeding? It's not just a metaphor, it's real. In some rural counties, 1 in 4 FARs is behind on payments. Bankruptcies are climbing. Land that's been in families for generations, passed down with pride, is now being sold, not to neighbors, but to hedge funds and foreign buyers. And yet, in Washington, the message remains stubbornly the same. The administration insists the tariffs are working, that they'll bring manufacturing home, that this is all part of a master plan. But here's the brutal truth. No one has explained how that master plan helps a farmer whose top customer just disappeared. Because tariffs aren't a strategy, they're just tools. And when you swing the wrong tool at the wrong problem, you don't fix it, you break it. What's breaking now isn't just grain contracts or market share, it's trust. Trust that trade is fair, that open markets mean something, that decades of hard work still count for something. Farmers aren't naive. They know the world is complicated. They know geopolitics isn't always friendly. But they also know one simple truth. You don't build loyalty by punishing your partners. And China, for all its faults, was never the enemy at the grain bin. Now, the ripple effects are redrawing the global food map. Nations like Nigeria, Vietnam, and Egypt, once steady buyers of US grain, are forging new ties with Brazil, Argentina, and Ukraine. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization warns that these shifts are already affecting food security in dozens of developing nations, because when the US and China fall out, the rest of the world pays the price. And still, there is no clear fix, no plan, no reset, just press conferences, sound bites, and staged applause. Meanwhile, in Missouri, a farmer walks across a fallow field, land he didn't plant this year, and wonders if he ever will again. In Kentucky, another farmer looks at his son and says quietly, "This farm ends with me." "What am I handing him?" the farmer asks, staring across fields gone fallow. Debt? A broken system? This isn't just economic collapse, it's a cultural one. America is watching its backbone, The people who feed the nation fall, while those in power look the other way. Farmers aren't asking for pity. They're not asking for bailouts. They're asking for something far more important: a reset, a real plan, a way forward. Smarter trade, stronger infrastructure, long-term investment, and above all, respect. Because without the American farmer, the food system doesn't stall, it collapses. It's that simple. It's that terrifying. And it's happening right now. So as the headlines debate tariffs and trade wars, remember, every broken contract is a dinner plate gone empty. Every abandoned field is a lost chapter in America's story. This isn't just farmland being sold. It's America, slipping through its own fingers. Don't let America's farms go silent. Hit subscribe and ring that bell. Let's tackle this trade war mess together, one crop at a time.